all right, I'm going to do the post-weekly analysis. Initially, I said that perhaps we should not trade on Monday until we have at least one New York open because of all this tariff drama that's going on. And then later on, I posted with an image of EA's chart. I said I think initially, because a lot of the pairs are overextended at a higher high or a lower low, most will try and pull back to the EMA to begin with, but I'm not going to be trading against the trend. So the image that I had posted Monday morning, I think was on the 2-hour time frame, and it was of EA when we were back up here. I said that we were going to come back down to the EMA, and it did that, so that's fine. And then I said that I was going to be forward testing a lower high reshort on Solana, but I'm not fully convinced because the 12-hour and the daily are teetering on an anchor break. So let's go to Solana's chart quickly, and I had marked up this 1-hour candle being at a lower high in a downtrend, and you can see that if I scrunch my screen. If I just do this, you can clearly see that we are in the downtrend. So it was at this point, I was at the lower high, and I was saying I'm going to forward test that. So that's what your entry would have looked like if I was catching just the 1-hour candle on its own. And then I did say I wasn't fully convinced because of how the 12-hour and the daily was looking, right? So let's have a look and see. And that was probably a good call. And I think a lot of pairs are trying to reverse, but it's just so aggressive at the moment. So that was your shift. As soon as you get a candle body closing above a lower high in a downtrend, that is a potential shift. And now you're bullish, and you can see that we've now had a higher low relong. And the inverse is true with when you are getting a candle body closing underneath a higher low. So if you were in an uptrend and you get a candle body closing under a higher low, you've potentially shifted into a downtrend. So you can see that there. Let's have a look at the 12-hour. What was going on here? Right, I said that we were potentially getting the anchor break, which could reverse the trend. So 12-hour daily is a very early warning signal that it could be shifting and changing. And then as soon as your higher time frames like the 2-day and the weekly start catching, is definitely reversed, right? So I would say this is now, if you've had a 2-day candle body closing above the EMA, it's also an engulfing candle, it's broken anchor, and it's already starting, second bullish candle. Like, this looks good. All right, let's have a look at the weekly, what that's doing. And I've posted in the macro chat before that weekly anchors are really good buy and hold situations historically. Right? If you look at that, like the touch there, yes, there was drawdown and then a touch in this grind in the anchor. That touch is still, if you've even bought that anchor to hold, you've probably done a lot better than most people out there. So same situation with this, okay? So it's coming up now, and that's why I said I was only forward testing it, because I wasn't sure if we were going to get the trend reversal. Now we have. Yeah, I didn't see this. I didn't see this higher low coming in. That was 2 o'clock in the morning. So of course I missed that. That's all right. Let's move on to the next situation. I just said, like EAGA has been resetting back to the EMA. So I'll just show you that. Because remember, I shared that at the start of the week. I said that we were going to probably come back to the EMA. We did that. And then, so this is the trade I took, and I'm kicking myself about it. I was on the 1-hour time frame, which is already not great. I usually don't do that, but I was just trying to be naughty. Anyway, that I was hoping that we were going to put in, well, this situation that occurred here, basically, I was hoping for something like that. I only put half risk on. I risked $1,000 on this, trying to re-long what I thought could potentially be a break coming to a long channel. And I got stopped out, so I lost $1,000 this week. Something that's really interesting that Oren's just put me onto as well, and I kind of did it in the past, but I'm going to start doing it more often now. I'm going to be looking at all of the Forex index funds. If you were looking at the JPY index and even the DXY, you would have known that there was only short this week. And I think Bob Cobb did say that the weekly and the daily structure was bearish, which I totally agree with. I was just trying to trade 1 hour structure, which you can see is obviously silly on my side, and paid the price for that. So we learn our lesson. Higher time frames always better. And yeah, so those index, they did show, I won't go into it now because it wasn't part of my analysis in the actual call group, but it's something I'm going to be doing going forward. But yes, that was the trade that I lost. And let me have a look and see what else we had. So I said some pairs are shifting on the 12 hour. So we could be starting a new channel and getting re-entries potentially. I was giving a lot of attention to EA this week. So EA, I was waiting for, and let me just go to the 12 hour and show you. The 12 hour is a decent time frame if you want to preemptively start considering a change of trend. Obviously, daily, 2-day, and weekly are your big winners, but it's good enough, and that's why I had thought about it. So that shift, and I did speak about this, like, I think extensively. I was trying to, my feelings just got so hurt with the UJ 1 hour. I just don't think I wanted to go into anything again. Some pairs, okay. And I was showing this on a 2 hour time frame. I had said that I wanted, well, I'll show you the image. I had drawn up something like this, hoping to have that lower high reshort. And obviously when it kept on going, and Aaron told me that it's probably going to go a lot higher because of the week we're having with the tariffs, and it is the first lower high and a potential trend reversal, so it's going to be quite an aggressive pullback. So he was right about that, and when it didn't do that perfectly, I was I got shook out of the position. Other pairs that I was looking at, I forward tested this with Aaron. I spoke to Aaron about this. I didn't call it out in the chat because of how the week was playing out, but I did forward test GU, GCAD, and GA for short positions. GU, I'll just show you each of them on this mid time frame. I forward tested this and it wasn't wrong to play a lower high reshort. Like it kind of played, it did, but you can see everything is gearing for the trend reversals, which I was scared of this week. Okay, so that reshort wasn't wrong. I forward tested it. You would have been all right to get something off of that. GCAD was incredible because you put in a new lower low. I'm really sad. This probably would have been the one to take this week. It was perfection, lower high, and you're breaking the lower low previously, so you're putting in a new lower low. That is perfect structural play right there. And then with GA, I was catching it as a reversal because I said we're going to get that mean reversion, which we did get. And I think on the 4 hour, I think I already made a video about this for some guys in the chat. I was looking at this bearish engulfing because it's told you now that was the top wick of the daily. I didn't want to play it on a lower time frame because of the type of week we've been having. So I forward tested it as an engulfing on the 4 hour, and it was incredible. You can see that it played out, but this is a reversal. And the other two previously were continuations. And then on Friday, I had boomeranged back to EA. I said, I'm giving EA a serious look to reshort that lower high. If we're worried, we can always wait for one 12-hour bearish candle to close to see what's happening. And that's why, because I wanted it to just ping off the EMA basically. But with the aggressive volatility we've been having, that doesn't always happen. So the pullback was a lot larger. So there's your 12-hour bearish candle, by the way. So perhaps now we're going to be putting it in. I'll just have to speak to Aaron first and just get his opinion. I'm going to look at the actual index, the currency index for these, to see if it marries up to what we're looking at, because it does help clean the picture up a little bit. And then, okay, I was abandoning a lot of these setups. I said, if the current 12-hour on EA continues bullish and closes bullish, I'm abandoning the setup. And I was talking about these 12-hour candles, all these blue candles here. That only closed yesterday, 7 p.m. So yeah, I was like gearing down for the evening, going into the weekend. So I stopped looking for the setup basically because I wasn't getting that turn that I wanted, that lower high. Annoying that it's eventually come in, but I think we can maybe get some good positions next week if this is the case. I'm still seeing lots of news on X about people retaliating with these tariffs. So Monday's always, at the moment, kind of like off the cards for me. You just never know how Monday's going to open the week, especially like in Australia, because we're ahead of everybody else. you have to wait for New York to open before you can even consider anything. It's too dangerous otherwise. So we'll see what happens, but this structure looks like it's gearing quite nicely, potentially to carry on a short trend. But I'll give you guys my proper pre-weekly analysis either on Sunday or Monday early morning. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks, guys.